Poppy Playtime has more news about Chapter 2. I know at this point I'm practically just a Poppy Playtime news channel, but they just keep hitting us with new huge information that I want to talk about. I'll try to wait until Chapter 2 gets closer to talk about the game some more, but it's such an exciting title thus far, so no promises. Anyway, at about 3 in the morning for me in the Poppy Playtime Discord, we were alerted about something big coming the next day, and that initially seemed pretty exciting. The Discord began to go crazy after this because everyone was theorizing that this was going to be a shock drop of Chapter 2, which as most of us know couldn't have been the case because they already said they'll announce the date before dropping it. But regardless, everyone was still freaking out at what this announcement could have potentially been, including me, honestly. The team would come back saying that it's possible instead it would be coming the same day as that announcement, and after a few hours, eventually we would finally figure out what this announcement is, and it's actually pretty crazy. On the Mob Games YouTube channel, a brand new tease was uploaded called Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 Mommy Longlegs Commercial VHS. Inside of this commercial is like a creepily realistic advertisement of the new antagonist coming in Chapter 2. The tape starts off with just a picture of the teaser image that I've talked about previously, and then it cuts into the actual commercial showing kids playing with this figure on a playground. And while this is of course just a display of the toy version of this new character, it's actually somewhat horrifying how freaking long she stretches when we begin to think about the monstrous evil one that'll presumably attack us in the next chapter. Similarly to the commercial shown for the Poppy doll in the beginning of the first chapter, this advertisement ends with the slogan, "What's the time?" But this time, instead of the commercial ending how it normally should have, the colors change and the music stops. The logo disappears and things seem to go black. Then suddenly an image appears for just a couple of frames just to disappear once again. Here's what the image actually looks like, and honestly guys, I just simply cannot tell what the heck is going on in this photo. I mean, we could clearly see Miss Longlegs over here just based on the huge arms, but like, what in the world is this thing? It seems to have eyes and a face, but it's just too dark for me to make out what it is, so let me know your theories. If I had to guess, it's probably some other toy that's going to be in the game, maybe even the caterpillar character that was said to have been redone to make it scarier from the original trailer, and I only think that because that's probably the most teased toy up to this point. But if we were to compare the trailer image and this new teaser image, they don't even look similar. And honestly, this could not even be a character altogether, but we'll just have to see. Moving back to the trailer, it cuts once again to the playground image where the footage was recorded, but this time it's in a more dark and creepy way. We're then shown some actual gameplay of us inside of the factory, presumably in Chapter 2 itself, and in this we are running down a colorful, horrifying hallway very similar to what we've seen in Chapter 1. Throughout the rest of this tease, we are shown very other vague bits of gameplay, but what's interesting is that as the gameplay is shown, Poppy's face begins to slowly become more and more present until she eventually randomly tells us to wake up, and that's where the trailer ends. So wow. First thing I want to say is that this is by far the best thing the team has put out in terms of relaying a creepy message. None of the trailers or even Chapter 1 itself has made me feel as uncomfortable as this footage, because it genuinely feels like a realistic commercial turned creepypasta, and I don't think it could have been done any better, honestly. In terms of meaning, I'm no theorist, but there are a couple things to unpack from this trailer. First off, as I mentioned before, this new character is going to be stupid large with those hands that stretch incredibly far. Also, when I went to this trailer, I was sort of looking for answers specific to Game Theory's own video on this new character, because in that video, if you didn't see it, MatPat had theorized that this stretchy toy is based off a real toy very similar to the character, and what he noted about both the game version and the real-life toy was that they both had extra holes on the sides of them, which in the real doll was used to add extra parts onto the character, which he theorized was also going to happen with Mommy Longlegs in this chapter, which seemed to make sense, especially after we were told about something called swappable toys, which are guessed to be some sort of series of toys in the factory that could be mixed and mashed together to create all sorts of different combinations. The unfortunate thing about this theory is that inside of the trailer, we don't hear any mention of reattaching parts or anything like we may have thought. And realistically, if that was a feature, it probably would have been a key point of the advertisement, but it wasn't included or mentioned at all. There is the silver lining that in the advertisement, the toy version shares the same holes as the other two figures I've discussed, which could mean something in the future, but for right now, there seems to be less weight on that theory. Anyway, moving on from this VHS tape, the whole point of it was to actually advertise the Steam page for Chapter 2 that was supposed to go up at this time. The only problem is that by the time this trailer came out, the Steam page was and still is under approval by Steam, so we can't actually see at the moment what the page is going to look like, but no fear, because inside the Discord again, the devs apologized for this by showing us every single screenshot they uploaded to the Steam page so we can view and analyze them anyway, which first off, huge props to them, that's actually pretty cool to do. Anyway, the first screenshot here is something that we're already a bit familiar with, because this scene was actually shown in the Chapter 2 initial trailer, so it's already been viewed reviewed, but there is a couple things to talk about still. First off, there's the train. I have absolutely no guesses as to what this will be used for, but with it being shown, I assume it would at least have some purpose. Also, there's been an interesting theme going on throughout multiple screenshots, this one included, where if you look closely, the entire map is riddled with spider webs. And if we look at the top of the map, we first off see an upper part to this map, which is super cool, but also there's a little toy Bron hanging in the webs, which could mean a number of things. In the next screenshot, there's a big void in the middle of a hallway, which presumably will be an obstacle that we have to get past somehow. There's this yellow bar in the top middle, so it's possible we could grab onto that or wrap something around it to help us, but it's also very possible that maybe similar to when we opened the hallway to see Huggy from chapter 1, this could actually be how we first encounter Mommy Longlegs, because if we look at the pipes in the void, they match the place where she emerges from in the initial trailer. So this could actually be that weird void where we first seen her come from in the trailer. Also in the screenshot, there's flashing red lights at the top, so those are surely making us aware of something being wrong. Next up, we have a photo of us actually inside of the train tunnel. This setup is probably honestly the least revealing screenshot just because there isn't much to see here, but it does tell us that we will either be using or exploring the insides of the train station itself. The next screenshot looks just like a picture of the place where chapter 1 initially ends, which is weird, but this may just be some sort of flashback scene or where chapter 2 itself may start because this is where we left off last time. The next screenshot shows a similar void to the last one, but it's actually instead torn apart. This one also has the same yellow bar, but it's a different location from the looks of it, so it could be another obstacle we have to get past using whatever systems and puzzles we may encounter. This screenshot shows what looks like Kissy Missy wearing a security outfit down a hallway, which doesn't really tell us much, but it's interesting to see, especially since I can't really tell what's at the end of this hallway, so that'll be cool to theorize about. This next screenshot shows what I can only assume to be a pretty large part of the puzzle for this game, just because there's all these buttons and what looks like hands over here. Also, if you look on the left, there's a TV with a colored VHS player, so that's probably going to be a recurring theme where we find tapes and put them in to get clues as to what is going on throughout the chapter. Next is a picture of us inside of a sister location style vent, which is something that I fear having to deal with, because my goodness, does this look terrifying and like a place that I don't want to be crawling through while being chased or anything. The second to last screenshot that we have here is what I can only assume what we'll see after crawling through the vents just based on this hole over here. And also, this is a part of the map that I don't think is meant for us to actually see in the factory, I can only assume. Because we do know that the factory was intended for people to tour back when it was still open, which is why there's a lot of colors and posters all about the factory, but in chapter 2, we've seen a few screenshots showing much darker and creepy parts of the map, those of which presumably are not meant to be visited by normal people like this one here. We see a bunch of electrical stuff that we may be able to interact with, but they aren't the same as the power systems in chapter 1, so I'm not entirely sure. There also are some incredibly dim lights and dark atmosphere that make this one of the creepiest screenshots yet. The last but not least one is a brand new themed hallway that instead of being multicolored is actually just a dark blue. There's a television in the back which could be used in the chapter, but the biggest part of this tease is what's on the walls. If we look at them, the character running across it is one that we've never seen before. And clearly this is going to be the caterpillar character that we've been hearing about for a few days now. If we zoom in, we can kind of see what looks like the character's face, although honestly it really looks more like Huggy, but maybe they're just really similar looking, I'm not really sure. All this stuff came out yesterday and we are so close to chapter 2. In some good news, this won't be the last update we get until chapter 2 releases, because we are expecting a release announcement within the next week or two, followed by the chapter itself, and I'll be analyzing that and more here, so subscribe. And also to hear more about chapter 2 right now, check out this video here. If you made it this far in the video, comment the word egg to confuse the people who haven't finished it. I'll heart it in peace.